I wanted to tell you just a little story about the way this book came to be, because it is kind of unusual, and I hope it's inspiring as well. Last summer, I sent a proposal. I finally decided to stop writing new stuff and just try to sell the stuff I'd already written. So I spent the time coming up with a proposal and sent it to roughly 10 places I targeted. Some of them were really little boutique publishers, and then a couple of the big ones. So after I sent the proposal off, within about 3 days, I got a phone call. So I was really impressed. I was making dinner, and the phone rings, and it said Georgia, and I thought, oh, some salesperson knows me in Georgia. But I happened to pick it up, and I just received your proposal, and I want to talk to you about this book. So I was incredibly excited, and I ran off into the living room. Best friend, because I was sure he was going to publish my book, and he was talking hardcover, and how many did I think we would run, and went on and on. He didn't sell ebooks, so that was a little alarming. No ebook rights, but I didn't care because I was so excited that somebody was actually going to publish my book. So he said, send me the whole manuscript, and if you can wait, because I told him I'd sent the proposal to 10 places. He said, if you can wait till Friday, I'll give you an answer. So I was so excited, and I sent it all off the very next day. Actually, I ran out to Barnes & Noble and checked him out on Editors and Predators and made sure he was okay, So clearly I started fantasizing that my husband and I were going to start going to Atlanta and become best friends with him and his wife, and it was all going to be great. Well, Friday came, and he didn't call or email or anything, and then the next Friday came, and he didn't call or email or anything, and I kind of pinged him with an email, and there was nothing back. That was getting a little depressing, and then I was teaching at St. John's. I teach at St. John's. I've been there a long time, and it was time for my Tuesday night class. Meets at 7 o'clock, and at like 6:45, FedEx pulls up in front of my house, and the guy runs up and tosses a package in the door, and it was my entire manuscript not back. And I was so crushed, and I had to walk over and do what I always have to do in getting horrible news, and then walking into a classroom, just completely compartmentalize it. Just think, okay, put the grief over here and go talk, and try to meet these people's needs as best you can. And so that's what I did, and I was pretty depressed about this for about 2 hours. And then on the way home, I decided that there is no such thing as bad news or good news. There's just news. There's just news. And that I could decide how this was going to be processed. And that if I chose to just look at it as news, the possibility was there. And more likely, if I believed it was there and possible, that actually something better was on the way. So by the time I went to bed that night, I was feeling pretty good about it. Like, it's all right. I woke up the next morning, and there was an email in my inbox from Penguin, which is one of the big six, which they say you cannot sell to without an agent, saying, is this book still available? As soon as I saw still available, I was like, So that's how it came to be. And the reason I tell you that story, in part, is because teaching writing and being a writer myself, I've learned over the years that there is no difference between the writing life and life, between the rules for writing well, the rules of the craft, and the rules of relationship, and the rules of living well and having an authentic life. They all really are one and the same. So the book kind of makes that clear as you go along. And this book is not just for writers, it's also for anyone interested in tapping into their creativity. And writing is not therapy, but it is therapeutic. And so there is a role for writing in transforming your life, and I can absolutely attest to that. Writing is a way of not only discovering the story within, but changing the story within. So the story you tell, the story we lead with, we are our stories. In the book Little B, she says, our stories are the tellers of us. That's really true. But so I'm going to read just one very brief, because I know how it is to be standing, one very brief excerpt from the book. And it's not an anecdote. I was going to do that, but this is really about writing without being inspired. So many people think you have to have an idea first, and that you can't sit down to write without an idea, and that's actually completely wrong. You sit down, whether you have an idea or not. It is the act, the physical act of writing that brings forth ideas. So this is just from the end of chapter 2. Writing without inspiration, however self-conscious or silly, primes the pump of imagination and memory. It signals to your inner writer in ways both obvious and more subtle that you're ready to receive. Think of it like this. You're not trying to make a story up. You're trying to let the story within you get out. It's like running to the edge of a cliff with a hang glider. The run is awkward. You stumble a bit. You're burdened by your wings. But you keep running, and at some moment, you're no longer straining for momentum, but soaring on the wind. And you're off. And maybe it will take you a page or more to know this story is going to stay aloft. But you can jettison your exploratory paragraphs later if they're unnecessary. As you continue to write, details will begin to accrete. They will grow in depth and weight and take form. The early emptiness of space contained little more than helium and hydrogen, but elements combined and recombined and became something weighty and new. Eventually, characters will ignite and burn bright on the page. There, they will gravitate toward each other, which, interestingly, everything with mass tends to do. An expanding universe means that someday there will be no stars in our sky. We'll be utterly, devastatingly alone. And yet, in the eternal paradox writers find so compelling, reporter Lynn McTaggart predicts science will also prove this. We were never alone. We were always part of a larger whole. We were, and always have been, at the center of things. Things did not fall apart. The center did hold, and it was we who were doing the holding. Thank you.